Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Money Podcast, your source for all things money. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at Ask Adam Torres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Joseph Bramante on the line, and he's CEO over at Tri-Arc Real Estate Partners. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, so excited to get into this new course that you have coming, that you just launched on multifamily passive investing. But before we get into that, I do want to get into what you're doing over at Tri-Arc Real Estate Partners. Tell us a little bit more about the business, please.
Yeah, so we are a multifamily investment company. We've been around since 2012, and we are based here in the Houston market, strictly in Houston, and we are acquiring multifamily assets. We've got just over $100 million and growing, and I'll tell you what, it's real tough these days with COVID and everything that's going on, trying to find quality deals and compensating for the downside risks that we see. So it's an ongoing struggle, and it'll be interesting to see how everything kind of plays out over the next several months. And but we're doing our best to find quality deals to place our investors' capital in.
So let's talk a little bit more about the types of properties that you typically like looking for, and kind of the space that you play in. So you already mentioned Houston. Give us a little bit more there.
Yeah, so we are strictly in Houston, and reason being is, I've got two partners, and they've both been in property management for the last 30 years, specifically in Houston. And between the three of us, we've got over 43,000 units of experience and about $1.7 billion in assets, and that's historically. So now, kind of as we came together and growing, we just felt that our greatest advantage would be just to stick to the Houston market, because that's the market we know. It's a very strong market. And so that's why we're here. And traditionally what we're looking for is your B and C properties, although we have kind of gotten a name for ourselves as doing these big value adds. We're currently doing a $37,000 per door renovation on a deal here in Houston, and historically we've done
that's big.
everywhere.
That's big, Joseph. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, 220 units, 8.3 million. It's a monster. But we love it, and that's people don't do you don't hear about that too often, and
you don't. That's why I had to stop you. I'm not going to let you glance over that. That's a big deal.
Well, I appreciate that. But they're hard to come by as well. You don't really find those that often. It's I feel like most of the syndicators out there and operators, they know how to resurface and paint walls and add new cabinets by now. And this was just a real gem that we came across that hadn't been touched in really like the last 20 or 30 years. And so it was really a special find for us. So yeah, that's what we got going on. But historically we've done, a couple of these properties that were between 20 and 30,000 renovations. This is our third one that's over 20,000. But that's not every deal, right? Most deals are not going to be that big. Most deals are going to be your normal kind of 5,000 to 10,000 per door renovation, and we're good at that. We excel at those, but what we're really good at is the large ones.
Let's switch it up a bit, Joseph. So I want to get into this course. So multifamily passive investing course. Tell us more. Yeah.
So this whole thing came about by just me trying to help my investors, right? So I've got investors and they invest with me, but they also invest with other people as well. And that's just how the business works. And it got frustrating for me because they would continually bring me deals as just kind of a second opinion, because they're thinking about investing in so-and-so's deal and they want me to kind of give it my blessing. And I'm happy to do that for people who've actually invested with us. Well, I started to see just a lot of really bad stuff out there, and which was obvious to me, but not obvious to other investors because they're not in the industry. They don't know the ins and outs of how things work. They don't know all the underwriting. And part of the thing that I realized was, there's a lot of courses out there. We can all take multifamily investing courses and learn how to do what I do and what other operators do. But there's no course out there that'll teach you how to be a really good passive investor. And there's a difference in the two type of people, right? So people who do what I do, you've got access to trailing 12s, you've got rent rolls, you've got complex underwriting models. If you're a passive investor, you've got a PDF of a PowerPoint package that's maybe 20 or 30 pages, and that's it. And you've also got some LP agreements and stuff like that, but you've got no real data to kind of fact check against. And so what I've done is gone in and custom created calculations and benchmarks to apply to these investment packages that allows investors, passive investors, to go ahead and basically break down the entire investment package rather quickly, both on a kind of at a glance and identify quickly what's wrong, and then on a deep dive should they choose to go ahead and make an adjustment for what they believe their real adjusted return would be if the syndicator missed something in the underwriting. So the course focuses strictly on the passive, strictly with the data that they have at hand, and it teaches them how to break down a P&L, identify where the errors are, and then go ahead and make a betterment as far as, is this a good deal or is this a bad deal?
Wow, that is a completely different angle. You're right. I haven't heard that. And what's interesting to me is that doesn't sound like it's just a good idea for the new investor. I bet you there's a lot of passive investors that have been out there passively investing for years that could benefit from that, because you really made it really custom. I mean, at the least, it's a tool that expedites the process of looking through deals.
Yeah, it was not an easy process because I had to really dig deep on the knowledge that we have, our extensive underwriting ability to figure out, okay, how could I reverse calculate this number? Just with this data here, how could I come up with, what the answer should be, or at least identify where there's errors. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, every line item was its own unique challenge. And there's, over 22 line items on a typical P&L. So it was, the investors or the passive investors who take this course are going to come away with just a very deep knowledge of a P&L and of an investment package, and probably save themselves thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, or hundreds, depending on how big of an investor they are. And really, the whole thing is just to safeguard the investment. And even if they're not investing with me, it's really just a universal thing that they can apply to any investment package, not just ours. And it's the first, we've only released one chapter of it so far. So the first chapter, I didn't even do the first chapter because that's kind of like multifamily 101. It's just the basics of how multifamily works. And I feel like there's a lot of that out there. So I just completely skipped it, but I will come back and do it eventually. And then the second chapter is where we really kind of get into the nitty gritty. And then the third chapter, which hasn't been written yet, goes to an even more advanced level where we start talking about limited partnerships agreements. We talk about 506C regulations. We talk about GP compensation. We talk about all kinds of different things on a very advanced level to help passives at least understand what they're getting into and be more comfortable making a decision on a deal.
Man, that's awesome. I love this. So Joseph, that being said, final question, a two-part question. So if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about Triarch Real Estate Partners or about your course, what are the right types of investors that are usually a good fit, or the type of investors that are a good fit for Triarch Real Estate Partners or for your course? And part two of the question, what's the best way for them to reach out to connect with you and your team?
So for Triarch Real Estate Partners, we are strictly for accredited investors. And you can look up the guidelines at the SEC. And then for the course, it's open to everybody, accredited and non-accredited. What we teach applies to both, and so it's universal.
Fantastic. And what's the best way for people to reach out?
And the best way would be if one's on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn pretty actively, but they're interested specifically in the course, to go ahead and send an email to info@triarchrep.com, and we'll go ahead and send you over a link to get enrolled.
Fantastic. Well, Joseph, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing a little bit more about what you're doing and to help passive investors. I think it's a really interesting approach, and you're right. I have not seen really anything else out there like that that's going to make the passive investing process that makes it easier for them to kind of do the due diligence with the information they have on hand. I think that's a really big nuance. You're right. If you have rent rolls, if you have all the information, if you're an active investor like yourself or doing it for others, then yes, you can make those decisions in a different way. But if you just have that PDF and that deck, it's real tough. So I love what you've done here. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Money, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the comment section. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Joseph, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one.